Hi guys! Today I'm going to recap a 2008 action drama movie called Yip Man. This movie is about a journey of a man called Yip Man who had mastered Chinese martial arts. At that time, during the war between China and Japan, Yip Man desires to defend his family and his town from the Japanese army. So, how will the story of Yip Man unfold? Let's find out. Foshan is one of the provinces of China. The citizens of Foshan are prosperous and practice Kungfu as a hobby. Men, women, and even kids do Kungfu every day. Thus, martial arts schools become very popular and turn Foshan into a province renowned for martial arts. They even get to name the road as Martial Arts Street in Foshan. In that street, there are about 5 martial arts schools, each with their own masters. There is one who is known as the best master. His name is Yip Man. Everyone in Foshan has known Yip Man as the best master in martial arts and calls him Master Yip Man. He is an expert in Wing Chun martial arts. Unfortunately, he does not open a martial arts school. One day, one of the masters comes to visit Yip Man in his residence. He is Master Liu, who has just opened a martial arts school. He wants to do a practice duel with Yip Man, but it will be private, so whatever the result is, no one could know. At first Yip Man refuses politely because he is in the middle of dinner with his family, but seeing Master Liu's persistence, he accepts the duel. Although his wife does not like to see Yip Man fighting, he accepts the challenge from Master Liu. As their duel starts, a boy named Yuan, who was taking his stuck kite, starts watching the duel between the two masters. Needless to say that he enjoyed the action, watching how Yip Man successfully defends and counterattacks Master Liu. The fight ends with Master Liu's loss. The next morning, Yip Man comes to eat breakfast with his friend, Quan. They converse about the business that Quan will run, a cotton mill. Quan wants Yip Man to be his partner, but Yip Man refuses. Meanwhile, Yuan, who watched the fight between two great martial artists, starts telling everyone in the restaurant about Yip Man's victory. This rumor reaches Yip Man's ears through Lin, a servant in the restaurant, Yuan's brother, and also one of Liu's disciples. Eventually, the rumor reaches Master Liu's ears as well. He storms to the restaurant, searching for Yuan. Yuan runs towards Yip Man and demands clarification, but his brother steps in. He embarrasses Yuan in front of everyone as punishment for his big mouth, causing Yuan to run away right after. Because of the commotion, a police captain named Li steps in. He goes on about how outdated Kung Fu is, but Yip Man swiftly deals with the situation, dispersing the crowd right after. At night, Lin comes to Yip Man residence to practice martial arts, while Quan also wants his kid, Yao, to be Yip Man's first student someday. They practice fighting until Yip Man shows he does not really care about his own kid, Chun. His wife gets angry and the fight is disbanded. A few days later, a gang arrives from out of town and wants to fight every martial arts master in Foshan. They want to be the best in Foshan so they could build the best martial arts school and become rich. The leader of the gang, Jin, challenges the masters one by one until no one is left. Jin underestimates Foshan martial arts, but then they hear about the best master called Yip Man. The town gets fussy about the out-towners who challenge every master in the town. Because of the fuss, the police steps in. Captain Li helps to manage the crowd as Jin and Yip Man will be fighting in the living room. Yip Man's wife allows them to fight if they don't break anything inside. The duel begins with Jin charging into Yip Man, and Yip Man always counterattacks. Round after round, Jin feels hurt after being hit by Yip Man many times. Feeling hurt yet full of confidence, Jin tries his last blow with a sword to defeat Yip Man, but Yip Man easily avoids the attack and hits Jin with a feather duster many times. Yip Man then tosses away Jin's sword and the final blow is given by Yip Man with his rustic weapon and knocks Jin down for good. Jin surrenders and says that his northern style has lost to Yip Man's southern style. Jin and his friend never come back to Foshan afterward. Yip Man becomes more famous after he brings honor to Foshan. The citizens are more interested in martial arts and want to be Yip Man's student, but Yip Man still does not want to open his own school. Time goes by. On July 7, 1973, the Marco Polo Bridge incident happens. Japan invades China, robbing its people of their livelihoods. This causes rampant starvation across the country. The Japanese government will not give any food to the people unless they want to work under them. The prosperous and peaceful Foshan no longer exists. The life of the people is threatened. People are being shot right on the spot. The population of Foshan shrinks from 300,000 to 70,000. Only a dozen factories in the entire city remained in operation. Yip Man's residence is confiscated and turned into the Japanese army's headquarters. Yip Man and his family are forced to live in a much smaller place and live an abject existence. He has to pawn everything he has for some rice. Yip Man even stops exercising martial arts because he is afraid he would get hungry. Quan comes to see Yip Man in order to help Yip Man, who is struggling these days. Quan still wants him to be his partner in his cotton mill business, especially taking into account that Yip Man had given him money as an early asset in the past. But Yip Man refuses as he does not want to owe people's favor. One day, his family runs out of rice and there is nothing to be pawned anymore. Yip Man promises to his sick wife that he would find a job so their family would have something to eat. After many rejections, he finally gets a job in a coal mining factory. In this factory, Yip Man meets his old friend Lin. Seeing Yip Man saving his sweet potato and just drinking water for lunch, Lin shares his own food. Lin asks about Yip Man's family and vice versa. Lin still owes an apology to his brother. What had happened in the past made him feel guilty. In the middle of the conversation, Lin remembers something important to him and searches for it in his pocket. He says to Yip Man that he lost his tin box. Not long after, some of the Japanese soldiers come to the mine, followed by an ex-police captain, Lee, who is now an interpreter for the Japanese. A colonel named Soto is looking for Chinese martial artists who want to fight with the Japanese. Whoever wins the fight will get a sack of rice. People volunteered to participate, including Lin. Yip Man reminds him to be careful and Lin tells him to not worry and help find his lost tin box. Lin and the others then follow the Japanese soldier inside a building where they will fight against the Japanese soldier. In that room, they see Master Liu has already fought and won the fight. Master Liu thanks the general of the Japanese army, General Miura, for the rice. When he gets out, he leaves a message to Lin to beat them all. Lin is triggered and feeling pumped up. Lin and the other two step in and would like to start the fight with the Japanese, but this time, the general himself will be his opponent. The fight begins and Miura fights them with no mercy. The other two have already given up, but Lin still tries to avoid his attacks, showing no signs of giving up. However, he still gets crushed in the end. He even spits his own blood onto Miura's face, angering the general. After what he did, he receives a full strong blow from Miura and passes away during the fight. The next morning, Yip Man comes back to work and he finds the tin box that Lin was searching for. He then looks for Lin, who hasn't shown up in the mine. At that time, Lee and Soto arrive at the mine, looking for fighters to fight against the Japanese soldier once more. Yip Man asks Lee about Lin's whereabouts, but Lee avoids the question. Yip Man then decides to join the fight. Arriving at the fighting arena, he sees Master Liu win the fight and get a sack of rice. Right after, he requests to fight with 3 more people. Unfortunately, he loses the battle. Master Liu then walks his way out of the arena to get his rice back, but suddenly, a bullet pierces through his head. Miura gets mad at Soto because of his sudden shot in the arena, claiming that this arena is for tournament only and orders Soto to never open fire here again. Yip Man witnesses this and gets furious. He directly steps into the arena and challenges 10 people. Yip Man manages to get Miura's attention. Before the fight, Yip Man puts the food in his pocket on the ground so he could give it to his family. Then, the fight begins. He fights the Japanese soldier one by one with rage on his fist and his kicks. He easily claims his victory, but the amount of punches he landed caused some bruises and wounds to appear. Miura tells him to return and he shall receive 10 sacks of rice. Yip Man refuses, telling him that he doesn't need it. However, Lee mistranslates it on purpose, saying that he'll return. Yip Man then takes his food and Master Liu's sack of rice back home. On the way, he stops by Master Liu's home and tells them about the incident. Shortly after, Lee arrives and reminds Yip Man to be more careful in the future, but Yip Man slaps him, calling him a traitor and leaving afterwards. Days later, the out-towners, Jin, come back to Foshan. Surprisingly, Yuan has joined Jin's gang. They threaten Quan in his cotton mill to give them money with violence. Yao runs to Yip Man to get some help, but when he arrives, they are gone. Quan and Yao ask Yip Man to teach Kung Fu so that they can defend themselves in the future. Yip Man obliges. The next day, Lee comes to Yip Man and is followed by Soto and some soldiers. Soto plays with a gun with Chun, Yip Man's child, while also bothering Yip Man's wife. Seeing that, Yip Man unleashes his anger, beating the intruders until they're unconscious. Lee helps Yip Man's family to run and hide in his home, but gets beaten up by the Japanese soldiers for trying to hide the family. Yip Man then says to his wife that they have to leave for Shan and go to Hong Kong with the help of Quan, who has a plan. In the morning, Jin and the others come back to the mill, still wanting the money. This time, Yao and the workers fight back with Yip Man by their side. After seeing Yip Man, Jin challenges him once again, together with Yuan. They both try to take down Yip Man, but they don't succeed. Jin and the rest of the team lost the fight. Yuan tries to escape, but Yip Man stops him and lets him know that his brother has passed away. Yuan is still mad at his brother and refuses to hear about him. Yip Man gives him his brother's tin box, and to his surprise, his favorite kite is kept inside, all these years. After that incident, Miura is informed about Yip Man's whereabouts. The Japanese soldiers arrive at the mill and threatens the workers. Meanwhile, Lee informs Yip Man about this and orders Yip Man to lay low, but he refuses. Yip Man rushes to the mill to save the workers and meets Miura. Miura tells him he'll spare Yip Man's life if he teaches the Japanese, Chinese Kung Fu. He refuses and instead challenges Miura to a fight, which he accepts. While he is taken away, he tells Quan to take his family out of Foshan. Sometime later, Soto and Miura converse. They talk about Yip Man's motive to challenge Miura. Soto does not seem to believe Yip Man's intention and suggests to just shoot Yip Man. Miura does not like his idea, because it would make Miura look like admitting defeat. Because of this, Soto meets Yip Man at his cell and threatens him to shoot Yip Man if he wins against Miura. The next morning, the day of the battle arrives. Quan keeps his promise and takes Yip Man's family away to Hong Kong. Yip Man's wife is frustrated as she could not support and be there for his own husband. Regardless, the fight begins. Miura and Yip Man fights with their own style. Attacks and counterattacks are rapidly exchanged. Miura grabs Yip Man, kicks him, and throws him over, but Yip Man uses his hand to hold on and kicks Miura away. Yip Man attacks Miura back, uses his Wing Chun style and lands some brutal attacks on the vital points. As for the final blow, he throws a fist in the air onto Miura's neck, but tries not to kill Miura. Yip Man ultimately wins the battle. The Chinese are extremely happy as their cheers for Yip Man's winning. Their happiness are short-lived, however, because Soto shoots Yip Man, causing him to fall onto the ground. Lee witnesses this and shoots Soto out of anger. Quan and Yip Man's family see the incident and quickly run to see Yip Man's condition. In the end, with the help of Quan, the wounded Yip Man successfully flees for Shan with his family. Yip Man refuses to be subjugated by the Japanese army and uses his fists to call forth the unity of the Chinese people. In 1945, the Japanese emperor surrendered unconditionally. The Chinese win and the war that lasted 8 long years end. For years later, Yip Man becomes a grandmaster and settles in Hong Kong. He starts his first Wing Chun class at Kowloon, turning over a new leaf in his life. In 1976, he starts the Wing Chun Athletic Association with many talented people among his disciples, including Bruce Lee. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment to help the channel out. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.